Today I'm going to walk you through the steps on how to transfer your physical Pokémon Gen 1 and Gen 2 saves and emulation saves up to Pokémon Home for Nintendo Switch. So if you're a lifelong Pokemon player like myself, chances are you still have some Pokemon saves lying around that you might want to get transferred up to Pokemon Home before the service shuts down on the 3DS side of things with Pokemon Bank. Now, while the Nintendo servers are shutting down next month, Pokemon Bank has been stated to stay operational, but we don't know for how long, so figured I would make this video real quick for anyone interested so you can get it done while the service is still intact. So again, we're going to cover how to transfer physical saves from Pokemon Red, Blue, Yellow, Gold, Silver, Crystal cartridges up to Pokemon Bank and then into Pokemon Home. So let's go ahead and dive in. So to accomplish this task, we are going to need a few things, the first of which being a modded 3DS. I don't have a guide for how to do this on my channel just yet, so I'm going to have a link to the 3DS hack guide for you to do that if you do not happen to already have a modded 3DS available. On the 3DS, you're also going to need a copy of Pokemon Bank, Pokemon Transporter, and of course the Pokemon 3DS Virtual Console games. So Red, Blue, Yellow, Gold, Silver, Crystal if you want to transfer all of them. Then you're either going to need to have an FTP program on the modded 3DS or an SD card reader to read the save files after you dump them. Then you're going to need a way to dump physical game cartridges. So for today we're using the Retro Blaster programmer. And then of course Pokemon games to back up the saves from. You can also back up emulator saves, which I will also go over. Lastly, you're going to need a Switch with Pokemon Home and some sort of computing device with a hex editor to edit Gen 2 save files. Alright, so the first step we need to do is acquire our Pokemon saves. So we're going to go over original cartridges here first, and for today's demo I'm going to be using the Retro Blaster programmer from RetroStage. There are a number of Game Boy dumpers these days, but this is just what I'm using for today's video. Link to these will be in the description below. If you're interested, this is the older version. The newer version's a lot more streamlined. It's really nice. But other things like the GB operator and other devices like that exist. But essentially, we're just going to pop the cartridges onto the adapter here. And with the cartridge in place, can open up the Retro Blaster software. I'm going to select the Game Boy Color tab, and I'm going to tell it to dump the save file. So I've already done this with Pokemon Crystal, and then we have the save type here, so Game Boy Color SRAM file in .save format, which is great. So we're going to name this one Pokemon Gold. There we go. And there we go, that first save has been backed up. Just going to swap the carts now to Pokemon Red. This one's using the Mew distribution event save file, so I'm curious to see if this will work to transfer to Pokemon Home. I doubt it, but I'm going to test it anyway, because why not? And same thing, dump the SRAM. And this time we're going to name it Pokemon Red. Perfect. Okay, so now I have gathered all the save files I want to use for today's tutorial. So Pokemon Red, since I dumped this from the actual cart, is the proper size it needs to be and is already ready to go for this tutorial. So for Gen 1 Pokemon games, they need to be 32 kilobytes with a byte size of 32,768. So that one's ready to go. We don't have to worry about doing anything else with Pokemon Red. Now for our Gen 2 titles, so Pokemon Crystal and Pokemon Gold I dumped from original cartridges. And then this Pokemon Silver save file is from RetroArch. So the first thing we need to do for this one is just change the extension from .srm to SAV. If you can't see the extensions, you only need to adjust folder settings in Windows if you're using Windows. And if it gets mad at you about file extensions, just tell it, yes, we want to change it. Perfect. But our Gen 2 Pokemon save files are going to be different sizes. So since I dumped Crystal and Gold from actual carts, they are also showing up as 32,768. And that is not what the 3DS is expecting. It's expecting a slightly bigger file, so we're going to have to do an extra step to get these ones prepped. And same with RetroArch, it uses proper save file sizes because it doesn't add any RTC data to the save file, so it is also 32,768. So again, we need to do a couple of extra steps to get these ones to read on our 3DS properly. So to do this, download Visual Boy Advance M. And I put my Pokemon ROMs in here just to make things easy. So we're going to add our 3 Generation 2 save files to the mix here. And we need to name them after the ROM files. So my Silver one's already good to go. You can see that the file names match. So I'm just going to do the same for Gold and Crystal real quick. And then for gold. There we go. So, now we're going to load up into Visual Boy Advance. We're going to tell it to load up a Game Boy Color game. And we'll go ahead and start with Crystal. So as you can see, the save file doesn't have RTC data in it, so it just kind of throws up a temporary error. But by clicking on Continue, we can see that it is my fully completed save file here, and it has loaded up. So just going to make another save real quick. Alright, there we go. Now I'm going to go ahead and open up my other two real quick. So gold version, so same deal. It doesn't like that it couldn't find any RTC data. But by going into it, we can see that we have the event distribution cart here. So pretty much the same thing, gonna make a save. And now gonna load up silver and do the same thing one last time. Alright, and there we go. And now that I've done that for all three, we are going to export the battery files for them. So under the File tab here, click on Export, Battery File, and then we're just going to name it whatever we want. Alright, and I should have done this all along with the other two, but whatever. So, going to load up gold. And same thing, export battery file. Alright, and then same thing with Crystal. Export battery file. And there we go. And with that, all of our save files are now almost ready to go. There's still one more step, unfortunately. If we click on them and go into our properties, we can see that they are still not quite the right save file size that 3DS is expecting. So to fix this, we need to open up a hex editor. So something like HXD. It's a free one, so very convenient to have. But then you're just going to drop your Gen 2 save files onto it. And with the slider tool here, we're going to slide down to the bottom of the save file. And you'll see this line here, 000800. And we need to delete everything below this line. So these two lines here that end in 10 and 20, we're just going to tell them to delete. And then we're going to save the save file. And it might ask you about how it's going to change file sizes. Just tell it it's okay. And once that's saved, we can close out of that save. And now when we go back into it, we can see that it is now 32,784, and this is the size that the 3DS is expecting. So this save file is now ready to go. So again, if we click on another one, we can see that they're just slightly too big. So that's why we have to delete those two lines. Because if you try to import them when they're too small or too big, you're going to get a save file corruption error. But anyway, so same thing with these other two games. And finally, silver. And there we go. So again, this only applies to the Gen 2 games. You don't need to do this for Gen 1 games, as long as they are the proper 32 kilobyte file size. If they're a little bit bigger, you will need to export them using VBAM as well. So again, Gen 1 Pokemon saves need to be 32,768 bytes, and Gen 2 saves need to be 32,784 bytes. As long as those sizes match up, you should be good to go. So on the 3DS side of things, again, we do need to have a modified 3DS, and there's a number of things we're going to need, the first of which being the Pokemon Virtual Console games. So we have all of them here, Pokemon Yellow, Red, Blue, Gold, Silver, Crystal. You're going to need to have started a playthrough on any of these games to make sure that they have a save file ready to go. So just load up any of those games if you don't have save files for them already. Just get past the intro, start up a new game. And so once you get past that intro, just go ahead and make a save file. There we go. And then you can go ahead and quit out of that game and move on to the next one if you need to do more than one game. So I already got save files for the rest of them, so that's going to do it for our demo on that part. Now, the next thing we're going to need is to have Pokemon Transporter and Pokemon Bank installed. So if you don't already have these installed, you're unfortunately going to have to find CIA files to get these installed. Again, since this channel doesn't condone piracy, you will have to search these out on your own. Alright, now for some other homebrew programs. So when you hacked your 3DS, it should have come with a version of FBI pre-installed. This lets you install CIA files. So again, if you need to install Pokemon Bank or Pokemon Transporter, this is the program you're going to use to install those. Then we also need to install the Save Data Filer. So I will have a link to this program in the description below. This comes to us courtesy of DigiX. So after you get Save Data Filer installed, just go ahead and open it up. And then, after it has read all of your save files, it will bring you to a screen that looks something like this. And so now you just need to find the code for your Pokemon save files. So the game IDs for the various Pokemon games are as follows. And this is good for US and UK versions of the games. Unfortunately, other regions, I'm not sure what your game IDs are, so you will have to manually search those up yourself. But if you have US or UK versions of the Pokemon games on your 3DS, these are the IDs you need to search for within Save Data Filer to back up. So we're going to be doing Gold, Silver, Crystal, and Red today for my example. So I'm just going to scroll down through this list, and I'm going to need to scroll quite a ways because there's a good number of save files on here. Alright, so I found my save listings for Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow. So again, for Pokemon Red, I'm going to try to transfer that Mew distribution save to the Virtual Console, see if I can transfer it up to Pokemon Home. So I need 01710. So that's the one I have selected. So now I'm just going to press Y to back that up to my SD card. And it's going to ask you if you want to export it. So I just press A to continue. And then just let it do its thing real quick. And once it's completed, just press A again. And then just scroll back down and do the same for the other games. So again, if you're doing Blue and Yellow, you'll grab 01711 and 01712. I'm not doing Blue and Yellow today, I've done those in the past, but I want to grab 1726, 27, and 28, and it doesn't look like I made save files for Gold and Silver, unfortunately, so they're showing up as broken, so I need to go do that real quick and then come back to this. Alright, so I went ahead and got those save files made, so now I'm going to export my Pokemon Gold save, which is 01726, so again, press Y, and then A. Wait for it to do its thing. Gonna scroll back down to 01727. Y. A to export. And finally, gonna go down to 01728. And again, Y, and then A to export the save. And there we go. So now that we have all of our Pokemon saves exported to our SD card, we can close out of Save Data Filer. And now we just need to access our SD card to get access to those files to swap them out. So there's two ways of doing that. If you have an FTP program on your 3DS, you could connect to it and transfer them over. Or what I'm going to do in today's example is just turn the 3DS off. Unscrew the back and take the SD card out of the 3DS itself and plug it into my computer. Now, regardless of how you access your SD card, whether it's through FTP or plugging it directly into your computer, you're going to need to navigate to a folder named Filer. And inside you'll see User Save Data, and that will contain all of the save data that you have dumped using the Save Data Filer program. So this is when I transferred my Gen 1 playthroughs to the 3DS back in 2020, and these are the 4 I exported just now for today's demonstration. So going inside each folder, you'll see the number for the save file here. So 1710, that was Pokemon Red. So going inside that, you'll see that you have a save.dat file. So we're going to rename our Pokemon Red save, save.dat. So save.dat, and delete the extension of the old file. And when a warning pops up about changing the file name extension, just tell it to go ahead and do so. And now just go ahead and copy it into that folder and overwrite the existing file. And there we go, my Pokemon Red save is now transferred over. So moving down, we have 1726. This was Pokemon Gold. So here we go. There's my Pokemon Gold save. So same deal. We're going to rename this one save.dat. It's angry about the file extension. That's fine. And now I'm just going to go ahead and overwrite the existing one. And we're going to go ahead and delete that. All right, next up, 1727. That's Pokemon Silver. Same deal. Mad about the file extension, yes. And overwrite. There we go. And finally, Pokemon Crystal 1728. And again, same deal. Save.dat. There we go. File extension confirmation, yep. And then finally, overwrite the existing save. There we go. And with all of that in place, we could go ahead and take the SD card out of our computer or disconnect from the FTP server and load back into Save Data Filer. Once in Save Data Filer, just go ahead and press left on your D-pad to go to the SD card section here. And now we're going to import all of our saves back onto our 3DS. So here we go. Here's my new save for Pokemon Red, which is the Mew distribution event. So I'm just going to press A on this to restore it. And then just press A again to continue the import. And once finished, just press A again. And now we're going to do the same thing with our Pokemon Gold, Silver, and Crystal saves. So we're going to import the save. And there we go. Now go back over to the User tab by pressing the right arrow because there is one more step we need to do for our Gen 2 games. So now I'm just going to scroll down to our Gen 2 titles. So for our Gen 2 titles, again, those were 17, 26, 27, and 28. We need to delete the secure value for these ones. So that is R plus X to delete those. So just highlight them, hold down R on your 3DS, and press X. And then press A to delete it. And now repeat the steps for the other two. So R plus X. And R plus X. And with that complete, we can go back to our 3DS home menu here and confirm that everything is working as intended. So I'm going to go ahead and load up Pokemon Red first. And there's blue. Here you go. Pokemon Red. And there we go. There is the Mew distribution event for Pokemon Red. So if I go into my Pokemon here, we can see that we have a crap ton of Mews. Awesome. The import worked perfectly. All right, now for Pokemon Crystal. That's the one I'm most excited to have working here. And there we go. There is my Bat Chat save file. It's a little mad about the date, apparently. That's all right. But there it is. There's the save file, completely intact. Yep, perfect. All right, so now Pokemon Gold. This one has a bunch of Pokemon Center New York City event Pokemon on it, so I'm kind of curious to see if I can transfer some of these up. But it is now loaded up. And there it is, just where we saved it in the emulator. Perfect. And now Pokemon Silver. This was a retro achievement playthrough I did, so it's just got more Pokemon on it. And perfect, the save file has transferred up, so all of these games are now ready to go. So to begin transferring Pokemon through Pokemon Bank to Pokemon Home, we got to use Pokemon Transporter first here. So Pokemon Transporter. And it is important to note that if you want to transfer Pokemon from the Gen 1 and 2 Pokemon games, you can only transfer the Pokemon that are in Box 1, and they cannot be holding any items. So you will need to manually go through and remove any items from your Pokemon, or they will not be able to transfer. Alright, so we wanted to see if we could transfer up one of the original Pokemon Red distribution Mews, so quick little test here. I don't think this is going to work, to be honest. And sure enough, none of those event Mews are going to work. Unfortunate. Oh well. It's pretty much what I expected. But anyway, let's go ahead and go over to Pokemon Crystal. This is the one that has my living Gen 2 Pokedex that I'm most interested in transferring up. So again, Gen 2 Pokemon cannot be holding any items, so you can load into your Virtual Console save, remove items from any Pokemon you need to, put them in Box 1, and you will be able to transfer them to Pokemon Bank. Alright, so there we go. There's my first box of Pokemon ready to go. So, just going to tell it to move that box to Pokemon Bank. And perfect. So now we'll load into Pokemon Bank because I believe they all go into a special transfer box and we need to move them before we can transfer more over. I don't quite remember, so this is kind of a learning experience for all of us here. Alright, so we'll use Pokemon Bank. Then we'll select a modern Pokemon game to use, I guess. Alright, now that we got Pokemon Bank loaded up, let's see here. Yeah, here we go. So, transport box. We need to move all the Pokemon from our transport box over to one of our bank 1s, 2, 3, etc. So that way we can transfer more Pokemon in. There we go. So if you press start, you can move them all at once. That's right. And then we'll just move them over to box 1. And there we go. Our transport box is now emptied and ready to go for another round of transfers. So again, this is kind of a long-winded process, unfortunately, but that's all right. So we'll go ahead and save it. Save and quit. And now we got to load up the Virtual Console game to move everything back over to Box 1 that we want to next transfer. So, it's going to take quite a while. So, need to change over to my Box 2 here. Withdraw Pokemon, so I can only withdraw 5 at a time. Change box, put them into box 1. And now we just got to deposit them. And then repeat until you've filled box 1 back up with 20 Pokemon. Once you have everybody moved over, just go ahead and save your game once again. And then from here, just go ahead and load back into Pokemon Transporter. So as you can see, this is going to take quite a while to finish if you have a large selection of Pokemon that you're transferring up from Gen 1 and 2. Alright, and with that, we're going to skip ahead till we have everything transferred into Pokemon Bank as to not waste any more time. After you get all the Pokemon you want to transfer into Pokemon Bank, go ahead and press X to save. And on the main menu is a menu option to move Pokemon to Pokemon Home. So, just going to select that one. And you'll get the warning that you can't send them back to Pokemon Bank after doing this, so just go ahead and begin. And then we can select which boxes we want to move. So I'm going to go ahead and select all the boxes that I'm going to move here. And there's some shortcuts down here that I just totally didn't see because I wasn't looking at them with my phone, and my phone is blocking the screen. So good stuff. Either way, once you're done, press Y and select yes to move all of these Pokemon to Pokemon Home. Now we're just going to enter the passkey that we have showing in Pokemon Home. Alright, so here's my moving code for Pokemon Bank. So just going to get this entered into my 3DS real quick. Alright, and so we've gotten the successful moving key confirmation here. So it's going to just have us scroll through on the Switch once again. Alright, and then once that's finished, we'll just wait for it to do its thing. Alright, so here we are back on the Switch side of things. Move preparation is complete. 323 Pokemon that can be moved. And we can move one Pokemon at a time, organize boxes, or move all boxes as they are. I organized the boxes already on my 3DS, so I'm just going to move all boxes as they are. And now we just, again, wait for it to do its thing. And there we go. All of my Pokemon are now moved over to Pokemon Bank, and we now have 251 Pokemon registered. Alright, and here we are. So here's all the Pokemon that I just moved up from my Gen 2 games on physical carts into Pokemon Home. And every single unknown to go along with them. Excellent. And with that, we're now good to move these Pokemon between anywhere that supports Pokemon Home. So there you have it, the method for transferring your physical Pokemon cartridge saves and emulator saves over to the 3DS Virtual Console and then transporting them up to Pokemon Bank. While we try to show the process as straightforward as possible, it is going to take some effort on your part to do this, and it is going to take quite a long time if you have a lot of Pokemon to transfer. This whole process took me about 4-ish hours to get all of my Pokemon traded up from my Gen 2 games, and yeah, again, it's a very long-winded process, unfortunately, but we're gonna go ahead and call it here. We got joined by a very sad, sick little baby, so appreciate you all tuning in, checking this out. Don't know how long Pokemon Bank is gonna be alive, so hopefully a little bit longer. I want to get Gen 3 up in here too, but otherwise, yeah, thanks again. Thank you to everyone who supports us. Thank you for believing in this channel, everybody. It really means the world to us, and we will see you all back next video.